Good morning, surprisingly. Well, morning, surprisingly. It was a tough night for me. I think it would technically be classified as a spiritual aeroplane ride that I've been on. That's my assumption. I'm not entirely sure. But whoever's giving me a lesson in spirituality has been giving me this lesson for quite a while. The message is all unclear. And yesterday, they decided to make me projectile vomit. Hence the big eruption. And hence this little tidy up procedure I'm having to go through at the moment. It's not pretty. I managed to hit the bucket there and thereabouts, but it came out with some force. So it's a bit hard to stomach. But on the flip side to that, I didn't set my alarm today. Not that individual lets me wake up whenever my alarm goes off anyway. But with everything, I just said, look, I just need to give myself a little bit of space. And I woke up and I looked at the sky and I thought it was like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the day. I thought I'd lost the day. So it's a little miracle that it's only 10 o'clock now. And that's given me some life to this unpleasant situation. Because I really want to move the boat. I've been stuck here for the longest time. It's beyond a joke. What I've had to experience that's kept me stuck here is beyond a joke. There's no way of rationally explaining it to anybody. And nobody's ever going to believe me. All I can argue is that, well, I've done my best. And I have health problems. Please forgive me. And it's just like every little time I think I'm getting closer to being able to move, I have a setback like last night with the projectile vomiting, and before that it was the flood, and before that it was something else and something else and something else. But there's not a lot left to do to put me in a position where I can move. But what I need to do for my own sanity is really talk through what I'm experiencing. Because I'm able to keep what it probably sounds so depressing to everybody else, but this is a positive tone to my life. Essentially, this sort of thing would have really wound me up in the past, because as I said, this thing has been going on for months and months, over a year, and luckily enough I haven't thrown up till now. But if you imagine all that pain, all that turmoil that this lesson on a spiritual level I'm being put through has been carried out for an extremely long time, and you don't forget that. You're aware that you've been put through a lot of hardships as a result of somebody who wants to teach you a spiritual lesson, but for whatever reason refuses to express to you clearly enough what the lesson's about. And that sort of drives me a bit mad, especially when the lesson is so hard. There was no need to make me throw up yesterday. It wasn't just a normal dodgy stomach. As I said, what was bothering me in the moment has been going on for a long time. And for whatever reason, they just said, let's push the button to make him explode now. And it really bugs me because it's just like, I try so hard with my diet, I try so hard with what I put in my body, I try so hard with life, and to see somebody playing the puppet master and really doing it for reasons that I can't understand, and being prepared to really make me experience unpleasant times. It's something that I would have had to have felt obliged to fight on some level. You know, this isn't right, this is an injustice, what's going on? And it is an injustice, it is wrong. But if you've followed any of my live streams over the past few days, you realise I've been going through a change again. And that change is to see a bigger picture when there's no real bigger picture present. In other words, from this little merry-go-round of suffering at this level that I've been in for many, many years now, I've managed to correlate some ideas about what's going on. And those ideas are grounded enough, persuasive enough to take action on them. And what that is a case of what I'm trying to do now is hold an element of love in mind to my oppressors. And it's not the easiest of things because they've been messing with my ability to breathe. So a lot of the time it's like there's not a lot of oxygen. That's the feeling. That's probably one of the most challenging things. And like today, I woke up and I was like, I can't be here. I can't be here. It's too painful. I've got vomit on the floor. I've got this tiny little cabin at the front of the boat where I'm going to carry out work. It's just too hard. The memory of the past comes to mind. But I've got to explore this idea, and I've got to really explore this idea, and I've got to give it a lot of time and energy because it makes sense to. And yesterday, well, no, before I get on to what yesterday, when I made the decision in the first instance, the next day I was challenged in a way. It was like, nah, fuck that, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to live like this, an unfair and unjust reality, because others are suffering in this world. In other words, I'm going back on my statement before. My statement before is we don't need to suffer as human beings. Why am I going to suffer because somebody else is suffering in this world? It doesn't make sense. What makes sense to me is to live my life in a humble way to life and do my best to help those less fortunate and never give up. But it's been persistent, and the message is you've got to suffer too, Andreas. We can't do it the easy way. We can't just stop the suffering, even though we can. You have to get mucky, roll up your sleeves and wipe up sick. It's not a problem, it happens, but it's the way it happened. And ultimately, exploring the likelihood of my circumstance in life, I've realised life is asking me to take on a different tone, a different energy, a different mentality. And that is like a work mentality. That is no more easy times, no more living for self, but living for other people in every moment. And what that looks like is a very hard, very cold energy. One that I describe as swimming through Marmite. There's no ease, there's no softness, there's no warmth. But on some level, I guess it's just like once you accept that, and you start living that way, for all intents and purposes, the acceptance process is where it's at, and that is the warmth, that is the ease, because you accept the hardships that you're being asked to live. So this morning when I woke up and I was looking around and I was like, I can't live this, I can't do this, I can't be here. It's just too painful. I'm in a bit of a contradiction, because in the first moment it doesn't make sense to live this way. To everything that I am, it doesn't make sense to live this way. But I'm having to accept a different what would you call it? A different I'm having to accept my work. I'm having to accept my spiritual work as a human being on planet Earth in my life. It's come and it's knocked on my door. And it said, right, Andreas, you ready? And I said, no, what? That doesn't make sense. Why would I be ready for that? Nobody would be ready for that. Piss off. The amount of times I've said that, it's ridiculous. And it keeps knocking. And I finally said, fine. You want me to work this way? I'll work this way. It's got to be easier then. Well, no, it's not that it's got to be easier. It's not easier. It's just a case of realising that given everything I believe about the world, the shit's hit the fan with this pandemic, you know. It's unprecedented. As soon as you start getting vaccine mandates, you realise it's serious. As soon as you get a country start locking it down and saying, right, if you're not vaccinated, you're staying at home, like in the case of Austria, you realise our freedoms as human beings aren't quite being looked at in the right way by the elite. So I said to myself the other day when when I woke up and my troubles were in my face again, I was like, sod that for an idea. I'm not going to start living like that. I'm not going to start suffering for the sake of suffering. It just does not make sense. But exploring the idea again, in a moment of patience on a live stream, I realised that I don't have a choice. It really is a case of I either do this now and my situation becomes that little bit easier by being proactive and accepting in an early stage rather than letting things get harder and harder until God knows what they'd be willing to put me through to submit. So I said to myself, I need to remind myself when I wake up, and my problems are in my face. My problems are killing me on my level, as they do. It's not like it's totally unjustified. It's just, in utter honesty, you can't really. Oops. You can't really what it was a case of, if I knew the seriousness of the problems that are really taking place on planet Earth, getting over my problems wouldn't be a problem. I acknowledged that to myself. In other words, I gave a story about some people in this world that are really have it hard. And that's very real for many people. And that's only one aspect of suffering on planet Earth right now. And if I was able to be constantly aware that that's the situation, I'm pretty sure it'd be easier to get myself up, proactive, and brush off my problems and be there on some level for those a lot less fortunate than myself, in whatever way that would be. realise that, and for that reason it's a case of, well, I've got to try it. I've got to try and condition myself to remind myself the world as a whole, because sure, I live here in the UK and I don't have it easy compared to some people here in the UK. And it's alright to live your life and fight for justice at that level and say, oh no, I'm hard up compared to you, sir, and for that reason I demand equality, and we get away from the reality of the world. So the reality of the world is we are affluent here in the West. We have here in the West, but like what we're seeing on a world level at the moment, shit's hitting the fan. And if you have any idea about society and where that's likely to lead, you realise dystopia is almost certainly on the cards. And I don't give a fuck if you're living in the West or anywhere else in the world. If you're living in dystopia, you're done for. Because there's no room to breathe, to be, to live, to grow in dystopia. You're better off in war-torn parts of the world, in parts of the world that are living by nature and experiencing famine. Because at least your mind will be right to the life that you wake up to each day. So I'm seeing a very real situation here. And I'm saying I've got to get up and I've got to be of service. It could be a mistake. I could be making the wrong decision. No, I mean, I really could be making the wrong decision. It really could be like a spiritual game, spiritual test. Real head fuck, but it's been too relentless to ignore from the perspective of one person trying to live in a society that's going downhill. For that reason, I just accept it, you know. Let's explore another route. Let's explore another option. And what I said to myself the other day was, I need a reminder to myself to wake up. And when my problems have got me, and I can't get beyond them, like I'm experiencing claustrophobia. It's one of my biggest fears, and PTSD is very much like that, and that's what I've got in the moment. So it's very hard to get out of, that's what I'm saying. It's very hard to see another reality as anything more. But I said to myself, if I make a tattoo, just something to remind me of what I have to do, and that is to swim through Marmite. And swimming through Marmite is essentially taking on pain, taking on suffering, because I'm at work with it and I can take it on. And it's just to remember that story I said of imagine being a 12-year-old girl somewhere in the Middle East. That's where most of the wars have been happening, like Iran, Afghanistan, etc., etc. And your home's just been torn apart. You've lost your parents, you've lost siblings, You've lost half the street. You don't know where you're going to get your next meal from. If you had running water to that point, is it still working? Chances are not. You haven't got any idea about sorting out plumbing just to retrofit some running water. Where are you going to get water from? How are you going to survive? You've just had your family die. It's a real problem in this world. And it's just to remind myself that that's what I'm at work for. That's what I need to let go of my problems for. That's what I'm being asked to do. And I said to myself, I'll make a little tattoo. I decided on the peace symbol because peace is what I tried to live for before, you know. Peace is very important to me and something that I resonated with. But my life's not peaceful. The world isn't peaceful. And I realised that if I just see that symbol, it's a reminder of who I was. And where I am now, it's not a case of being the opposite, but it's a case of that's not my life. And when I've got my problems, to just look at that tattoo and in remembering who I was is to know that that's not who I am now. And just connecting with that energy for a split second somehow feels like it would put my mind in a place where I could acknowledge where I am now. So it's not the best tattoo in the world, but it's only a small one. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'm impressed with it. Needs a little bit of touching up. I'm not the best tattoo artist at present, but by the time I finish the tattoos I've already started, I'm pretty confident I'll tie them in and they'll be a lot more presentable than what they look like at present. You have no idea how much these live streams help me find a place of centre, a place to go forward with when my mental health is my mental health. Just stay in the present moment. And all of its shitness and its beauty. It's proven to be very helpful. So it's Tuesday today, lots to do. I asked the question because I just want to end the live stream. What would it take for you to come to the realization you too need to swim through Marmite?